Hello there. So the way I see it is anyone ever puts anything up on YouTube is basically providing entertainment. So I just finished writing this letter to my sister-in-law in Corsica, so I thought, well, you might find it interesting. I find that when I start writing, especially with a pen and paper, there comes a magical moment where I stop thinking about what I'm writing and it just flows out. So this is an example. It starts off very thought out, then that just dissipates into flow. So here we go. Dear Lerie, thank you for your latest letter. What a situation you have this summer. I've been aware for a long time that it's always a potentially dangerous time for you, with the risk of fires and the dried out vegetation. You are now describing conditions with even the insects showing signs of suffering, lack of water, that is very hard for us to imagine here. We are watering the vegetables in the polytunnel and the soft fruit in the garden twice daily, just to keep everything alive. This has been going on for a long time. Normally in England, you water the garden every now and again, but now it's become a daily thing. 34 degrees is becoming our norm, and some areas have had 40 degrees and fires breaking out in residential streets. According to what's being said online, this is weather modification. It's been going on for so much longer than people realise, even since the 1920s. 2 days ago I saw footage of an RAF plane from the 1920s, seeding the air with chemicals to modify the weather. We hear of floods in China and droughts in places not used to them. Earlier this year, huge price rises in basics like wood and steel has been attributed to China buying up the world's supplies of commodities. Now we hear they are buying up world grain supplies from countries growing them successfully. Apparently major producers are being discouraged from doing so. Canada and America particularly, they're discouraged from farming. Ukraine, a major producer, is in war, so it all sounds like Willie Williams, the reggae artist on the Studio One label. He recorded a track in 1987, Armageddon Time. But if you look it up on YouTube, you have to write Armageddon Time, because they don't actually want you to use the word Armageddon anymore. Some people I know here are aware that something is coming. Deep population is ongoing, with predictions of a sharp rise in deaths that will never officially be linked to any experimental medical procedures. It's a very strange time to be alive, with the majority apparently unaware of what's going on. This week I read a detailed article written by an American who was asking the questions, some of which I'd never thought to ask myself. With the majority of workers in government, local government, big corporations, health service, police and other emergency services all jabbed up, this inevitably leads to the possibility of breakdowns in society over the coming years, which are unavoidable. With children being the most immune to the damaging effects of the spike protein, and the elderly most vulnerable to the protein, we can expect the elderly to die off much faster than they have done since 2020. Funeral directors report a huge upsurge in business. We will be left with a lot of orphan children and animals. The guy who wrote all this has been preparing for years. He now runs a company that is producing dried organic foods for people to use and store for when the global supply chain breaks down. We are all so much more vulnerable than we realise. Here's one simple example he shared with us. It appears that there are only a few locations on this planet where rubber is vulcanised. This is a very harsh process which is to make the rubber hard enough to use as tyres. So when the supply chain does break down, there'll be no more new tyres. It seems that a new tyres only last 4 years before they break down to the point they're unusable. I recently, looking at a piece of land, saw a vehicle which had exactly these tyres. You could tell they never move again. Obviously more than 4 years old. So that wipes out the entire transport system. The people that will be entirely unaffected is the Amish in America, who still use horses for all their transport needs, have no electronic devices of any kind, who do not ever use a computer, who grow all their own food. Life will continue for them, as it always has. Reading the guy's words really pushed me to extrapolate the consequences of what is being manipulated into existence. I was driving back yesterday, and on the way back I noticed smoke over the next hill. As we drove a little bit further, we could see a wheat field, and we could see that it had been partly harvested, and there was a load of smoke and flames. And when I looked more closely, although I was driving along the road, it wasn't so easy to do so, I noticed that it was a combine harvester. It had clearly caught fire, and the fire was spreading because, of course, it's all tinder dry to the fields. And the person with me said, the trees are catching fire too. So we closed the windows and carried on driving, because I could tell that we were going to be going really close to that field. And we did. We went down the hill, and ascending the hill, we drove to literally what was a load of flames pouring out of this tree, or this row of trees. A little bit disconcerting. I thought, we just got to keep going, don't slow down. And to my significant consternation, a Land Rover that was going straight in front of us drove past the flaming trees and then decided to stop in the road to have a conversation with some anxious people outside the gates of their home. And I'm thinking, this isn't too clever. I wonder how many cars are behind me. Are any cars going to get caught in the flames? And after a minute or two, the guy used his common sense and got the hell out of there, and I was able to continue driving. So that was a surprise, to say the least. My daughter finished her last exam yesterday. As a nurse that has chosen to make her stand about her own body, and with the qualification to prescribe like a doctor, that she has really put herself into a position where she's going to be one of the most highly valued members of society. Someone who's safe from unexpected death, and someone who's very, very capable as a nurse and as someone learning to prescribe as a doctor. She's been preoccupied with university work these last 8 months. It'll be good to see more of her soon. Last weekend I fell off my bike as I was getting onto it to drive back. My panniers were so heavily laden with vegetables it overbalanced. I managed to bruise my groin, shoulder, hand, ribs, all on the right hand side, and cut my hand on the left. So I've had limited mobility for some days. I've now healed to the point I can drive again, which is what I was doing yesterday. All this is preventing me from going to Devon to help my sister on her land. I'm awaiting a call from her this morning to see if I can go over and be any help. There's lots to do. Always is when you've got land. Here the shops are still full of food and supplies so far. Prices have risen consistently. We've got 12% inflation after so many years of pretty much not having any. This must be a shock to the younger people. It's so familiar to me. It just reminds me of life in my 20s. Life is now about being grateful for everything we have, for as long as we have it. Yesterday evening, I went to a sound healing experience in Glastonbury. 6 of us sitting in a stifling attic, listening to Trevor and Shannon playing a wide variety of musical instruments that create what are called solfeggio frequencies. These are sounds that heal from 174 hertz through all different numbers of hertz, 5 to 8, 9 something or other, over 900 hertz, which restores our connection to the divine. There's a huge rack of big metal tubes in their cellar that Shannon plays to create these sounds. Then we migrate to the attic, where they play huge gongs. They stroke them, they don't bang them, with big drumsticks with pom-poms on the end, and what comes out is an extraordinary sound, or swirling series of sounds that melding and blending into each other, becoming louder and louder, filling the attic with walls of sound. They strike tubular bells. They stroke sounds out of crystal bowls that are so penetrating it's almost too much. They carry huge tuning forks over to each one of us in turn, striking them, holding the base of the tuning fork onto our heads, then onto our hearts, so the sound goes straight into the body for even more direct healing. Much later, Trevor picks up his drum and he plays a steady rhythm like a shaman, and he sings the sounds without words that come naturally to him. We know that the experience is coming to an end when each of them in turn picks up a big glass bowl with a glass rod fixed to it and strikes it and holds it up to our chests as we feel the reverberations. Then Trevor goes around with his glass tubular pyramid on a string, striking it, and Shannon goes around rattling a device and uttering what is called light language. It sounds like Arabic to me. It's all done. We get the Orosoma sprays. We return to full physical awareness, and we go down for tea and banana cake. The thing is, I've been cooped up for 90 minutes with 7 other air breathers in a confined cellar and a confined attic at 30-40 degrees. So I take my leave and I drive 1 mile further on. I park. I walk through a quiet town street that has people walking in both directions. We are all walking to or from one of the most significant places on earth, Glastonbury Tor. I pass a woman who is an elder. She's wearing so many layers of clothes on her, and she has a red light on her head. She offers angel card readings for £1 to those who approach the narrow tree-covered steep hill that leads to the field decked out in moonlight. After exchanging some words with this lady, I enter the field. The sunset is waning. The moon, which will be full tomorrow in Aquarius, is rising in the east. It has an orange hue. It is so low down. I sit in the field and I make a smoke. I'm so grateful to be on my own. People walking past in both directions constantly. Able to see to make my smoke. Enjoying a smoke. Completely free of any fears. It is time to continue my ascent. I wait my turn to pass the first of the kissing gates. Instead of the concrete path of many hundreds of steps, I choose to walk straight up the very steep hill. The tor is usually covered in green, lush grass, nibbled short by the sheep. Now it is dead and light brown. It's a real pull on the lungs every step up. I find my rhythm, and passing the seat next to the path, I climb up, 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 until my way coincides with the path at the second bench, where there is almost always someone sitting every time I do this journey. Still not pausing, I continue up the path. Well, just off the edge actually, until I become aware of the sounds of the drums inside the tor, which is the ancient stone tower at the summit of this very steep hill. The sound of the drums is so much louder than they were yesterday, so I choose to stay away. I've had my doses of sound for the evening. I sit on the grass near the path, facing the rising moon. It is now so dark I can see some of the stars out. I notice Cassiopeia, the plough, and I extrapolate the two stars that make the pointers of the plough together with the W of Cassiopeia to identify the location of the North Star. There are not many stars out. The last of the dusk plus the rising moon makes most of them invisible to me. With considerable difficulty, I managed eventually to make another smoke. There's a gentle breeze blowing so high up. I can see in all directions. I'm aware of the street lights below, moving cars. There's still a constant stream of people passing me, going in both directions. Most pass me in silence. A few groups are chatting with animation. I hear so many different languages as well as English. Spanish is common. I hear a Far Eastern family. I hear children. This could be in any era, years ago, whenever. I feel a great gratitude to be living so close to what is regarded to be the heart centre of the world. I'm so grateful for an August that is not wet and cold, which is what I have vast experience of during so many English Augusts, camping out on the land with the damp clagging the atmosphere. What a truly strange time it is to be alive. Please, if there's anything at all I can send you, let me know what it is and I'll do my best to send it to you. As the Koreans say on their TV shows, hang in there. Forza e soda, Keith. Forza is Corsican for strength, so Uda is Corsican for health. Well, there you are. All the love to you.